look at those opportunities until I have a set of construction drawings and budgets from a professional architect. We can decide anything we want, and this is always the hardest sell for everybody is design and planning, but really for this kind of project, that's who needs to be involved next. And without that, we can't do the planning you're suggesting, Councilor.
Mr. Mayor, I've got two questions. I'll ask one, Jennifer. How long is the lease on the building up there that is highway patrol?
2 more years.
Isn't that automatic renew?
No, it's not an automatic renewal.
Okay, we have a major building sitting right on our property. It could be revised once they're out of it, or a new city hall totally, and have adequate parking around it if properly planned within the concept of Broadbent Park. Therefore, I think we ought to look into that also possibility, which funds would be available to totally remodel that.
Well,
That's
and
one.
once again, I appreciate the suggestions, and there's always more than one way to skin a cat. But moving city hall offices out of the building has been done before. What ends up happening is we have a building that the city already owns that we then have no use for. And this becomes the problem. It becomes a half-fixed measure because we've moved, and sure, we provided for office space, but now we're expending money and we have a second building that has now no use and that we still have to do something with, whether that's tear down, which I would hate to see, or find some other purpose, which is hard to do. The best outcome for any building is that it's used for its intended purpose, which it was originally designed for, and that's
Well,
what we're
I'm
doing.
personally aware of that, and I'm referring to, I am very pleased with the idea you have first. I prefer them. In addition, and the remodeling of Pleasant City Hall, I prefer
And that's what
over
I'm
anything.
proposing, yeah.
And there are many areas for money for this, even the Reynolds Foundation in Las Vegas, if application was made, might get the total amount of the funds to do it all. They put money into do this like that throughout the state. So, and being a historical building right now, that opens the door to historical preservation from the federal government. And they will underwrite a considerable amount.
There are a lot of grants for that kind of thing and for this kind of project. The issue being that, like I said, if we move, we've solved half of the problem, but are left with a building that's deteriorating that we still don't know what to do with, and now have no purpose for it. And once again, I know it's a lot, but if we were going to spend, I'll tell you, the county spent just about $1 million renovating the old Ealing Times building for their offices, and that building wasn't anywhere near the state that the Armory was in. Moving, like I said, a modular building could cost close to that as well. If we're going to be spending that money one way or the other, why not leverage that with grants and opportunities to fix the problem the way it needs to be fixed by renovating City Hall, doing an addition, and making sure that we're providing for the long
I've had
term.
2 calls with people say you preserve the history of the community to the building. They don't want to see it torn down, they don't want to see a new building, they want to preserve the old.
Sure.
That's the history of the city of Lee.
Well, and anybody can, I mean, I spent my elementary school years coming down here on school trips to see the fire department, and I shadowed Bob Miller for a career day one day and here in City Hall, and a lot of people have good memories of this, and this is once again the thing. People come back to Ely because it looks like and feels like home. It looks like Ely. If we start tearing things down and moving it around and doing other things without preserving some of what we have, that we lose that, I think, as well. But that's a personal feeling of mine.
You know, when you look at, you're grabbing $500,000 for this. Why don't you grab 300,000? See how far your 300,000 will take you.
And once again, I'm happy to do that, I just think I know from experience, because we do these CCCHP grants for the railroad, we do quite a bit of them, and this will be the third one we've done for City Hall, that it will be it's a lot of money to ask for $300,000, and it would be a stronger ask if the city was willing to put in, or at least commit to, and it may not take that much money. This is based on industry standards. If we're working with our engineer and he finds more cost-saving ways to do this than are immediately apparent, that 10 to 15% of the project cost comes down. And the city may not have to fork out the whole $200,000 to get this done. They may have to fork out maybe 50, or I may find a grant to finish that up because I'm gonna keep looking for that. Or we find out that the ARPA funds can be used for that. I know we've sent an ask into the, who's doing that, is it Kennington? Who's doing the ARPA funding? Auditing.
Well-
IEM wasn't here to think about.
No. Who is the accounting firm who's helping us with our ARPA funds?
IEM.
Hindenburg.
No, that's helping us stay. Hindenburg.
Hindenburg.
I've sent a question into Hindenburg from what I found. What I'm determining that it is to make sure that I'm not out in left field on whether or not this can be used. If we determine they can be used, it's a real small part of our remaining ARPA funds that would go a long way to, like I said, giving us this tool. It's important that we go through this next step to be able to fundraise for the rest of it. Otherwise, we're just doing home bathroom remodels and never get done. No offense, it's a beautiful remodel.
Yeah. You know, 4 or 5 years ago, I spent many nights in City Hall trying to open it up and get moved back in when we're in the DMV, where the DMV is now. And I guess Mr. Mayor probably knows more about this than I do, but we completed the downstairs and we're headed up the stairway, just painting at the time, and we're just gonna put a fresh paint coat on the upstairs because we're out of time and money. And SHPO will come in and they're like, stop, don't paint anymore. Well, why is that? This is a historic building and we don't want you to go any further. So I guess this is a great building and I'm not opposed to it at all, but there's some questions that should be asked, you know?
So
What
to make you feel a little
can
bit better
be
about that.
remodeled?
Sure. To make you feel a little bit better about that, the CCCHP grant is through the state SHPO. They work with our engineer and they work with the Historic Structures Report people to come up with solutions that they're okay with, that do change the building some. They have to. Because you're not gonna bring it up to date and do your life safety issues and ADA without doing that. It's just a fact. They realize some of those changes have to happen. And if we're getting a grant to do this, they're working with the engineers so that when that's done, SHPO is already okay with what's happening. They've looked at the plan, they funded the plan, they go, yep, this is something we can do. And then the solutions are solutions to our problems and their solutions to SHPO's concerns. All in one.
Sure.
If that makes sense.
Mr.
You
Mayor.
know, Councilwoman Harper's been trying to interject something here for the last 10 minutes.
I'm sorry.
I'm respecting my oath, although I'm older than a couple of us. But anyway,
Please, Councilor.
I would like to say I think preservation is really, really important. It's one of the things that I love about the city. I also know that I've learned, and I'm learning from my neighbor right here. I think we want to make sure that we answer all those money questions and all those money issues, because when we're doing something like this, I think definitely that this is something that we're going to agree upon, that we should all agree upon this. I think this is, you know, we don't always agree on everything, but this would be a major undertaking, and I think preservation would be amazing. So even if we had to take this in small steps or increments and make sure those money questions are answered, and make sure we're getting the input that we need, I think that might help Councilman to my right, because he's just a stickler about our funds, and you know, that is important. And having just been a school person for many, 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 many years, the modulars just don't do what you'd like them to do. After about 30 years, they're a mess, and you wind up going, how can we find some more? And I've just seen that happen in many, many places that I've been. So, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm hearing that you just need some more questions answered. And are there other funds that we can